Hey, it's Nikki. Before we start the show, I wanted to offer you a training course. The training course is all around business building because let's face it, business building is definitely a part of growing sales. And it's one that oftentimes people feel uncomfortable or unsure about. How do you approach that cold contact? Well, this training is authentic sales conversations. It lives inside my Sales Maven Society. And for you as the listener, I pulled it out, put it in a place where you can go and access it right now for free. So again, this is a training that people normally pay me money for, but I put it into a format that you can go and listen and watch this training for free and get the workbook that goes with it that actually gives you some script language of how to open those doors, how to warm up those cold leads. You can get the authentic sales conversation training right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/building. So that's yoursalesmaven.com/building. Go download that, get access to it, go through the training. Even if you just implement one thing from there, you're going to make an impact in your business this year. So good luck. Now, when you're ready, let's start the show.
Are you ready to boost your confidence when selling so you're able to close more deals? Nikki Roush will show you how to build a foundation of skills and a mindset that creates sales success without feeling pushy or salesy and without fear of rejection. She is a sales strategist and coach with more than 25 years of sales experience and is master certified in neuro-linguistic programming. This is a radically different approach to selling. It's a no sleaze, no slime, and no stress approach to building your business. This is Sales Maven. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush. I'm your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips, techniques, and strategies to master your sales conversations. Today's episode is a solo episode. It's just me and you here talking about following up with clients even when you've dropped the ball. It happens, right? All right. So before we get into the content, I do want to give a shout out for somebody who left me a 5-star review. Thank you so much. This is from Kevin Wallenbeck. And Kevin says, great podcast, 5-star review. I love good podcasts. I mean, well-formatted, personable host, and valuable, actionable content. Nikki nails it. The excellent series kickoff with Shane is on point. Thank you so much, Kevin. I am so grateful for that review. That interview with Shane, if you haven't listened to this interview yet, as it's the Mastering Excellence series that I launched back in June, that interview with Shane Sams is so packed full of brilliant information on how to take an idea that you generate and turn it into revenue. So if you haven't listened to it yet, please go back and catch it because I learned so much, and I've been thinking about the different things that I picked up from him. There are some other really good Mastering Excellence interviews coming up, so be on the lookout for those. I'm super excited to share that content with you guys. And as far as reviews go, if you haven't left one yet, would you please? I read every review. I will say it tickles me and delights me in a way that very few other things do. Okay, it's like a double rainbow for me. My husband always teases me and says, you act like a 5-year-old when you see a double rainbow. And that's kind of how I feel about reviews too. Like I get super excited. So thank you so much. And if you haven't left one yet and you enjoy the show, please go leave a 5-star review. I'd be so grateful. Okay. Let's talk about this idea of following up. This is a really common question that I get from clients a lot. They're like, some time has gone by or something's gone wrong. And, here's what because I always ask my clients when they want feedback on their communication. What are they going to put in the email? What are they going to, how are they going to frame it? And so I always say, write what you want to say and then send it to me and let me look at it. So this is a common thing. So if you're sitting around right now knowing that there's people that you need to follow up with, that you made some commitment to, and you're not following up, you're amongst a very, very good crowd, because there's a lot of us that find ourselves in situations where we're like, I probably should have done something with this. So instead of beating yourself up, Here's what I want you to ask yourself. This is the first question I want you to ask yourself is, how would I want someone to check in with me if I was on the other side of this? If I was the person they were supposed to have followed up with or circled back with or gotten information over to me, how would I want them to behave? What would I want the message to say? That's a really good place to start. Now I'm going to give you some specific situations and languages, not languages, but language here today in this episode for you that I hope you'll find really helpful. And again, it's always taking a step back and thinking about, how is this going to be received by the reader? How is this going to be received by the other person? So instead of clearing your conscience and, feeling like you've got to lay out all your dirty laundry, remember, it's about the reader. It's about the other person. Sales is about the relationship with the other person. So sometimes feeling like you have to give all of the details is a little too much. So this is one of those times where I will say, beware of the story. Beware of the story that you feel compelled to share when you've dropped a ball, when you need to follow up, when you need to put that email out, get back in touch with somebody. Beware of the story, because a lot of times the story means something to you and all of the ins and outs and all of the, trials and tribulations that you've experienced that caused you to drop the ball or, whatever's going on in your life. Like, we all have stuff. Especially right now, I'm finding it's not just me. Like, we all have stuff going on in our personal lives. I know this because I have a lot of clients that are sharing some really hard things that they're going through. And maybe you are too. And it doesn't always need to be out there for everybody. Because when you start to share a lot of story, it can sometimes come across like you're making excuses. And that creates an imbalance in the relationship, in the sales relationship. So I talk often about, it's super important that there's a balance of the relationship. One party shouldn't feel like they hold more control over the other. So you should never have more control or feel like you have more control over a prospective client, because frankly, they won't like it. It won't feel good to them, and they'll probably go somewhere else. And if you turn over all of your control to the client in the relationship, oftentimes it will trigger something in them, and they'll take some liberties that they might not take if you don't hand it all over. I find a lot of times people, they almost act like, I'm going to give this person the whip, and then I'm going to give them 8 reasons to whip me with it. And then I'm going to be like, oh, how dare you, after they whip me. But it's like, well, you set it up that way. You wanted the person, you assumed the person was going to be really upset about it. So you acted and treated them like they should be really upset about it. Then when they respond upset, you're kind of like, this isn't a very nice person, because they're not even giving me grace. It's like, you instigated that. So be really careful about story, because most of the time, less is more in these typical situations where you've dropped the ball. You just don't need to give a lot of story. It just sounds like a lot of excuse. So I want you to alleviate that first and foremost from your emails. Really go back and ask yourself, could this be interpreted as an excuse, or do they really need to know all of the details? If you're writing them, what would be if you print that email out and it's a 5-page email? You just word vomited your story all over them, and now it feels icky. They don't like it, and they're going to respond in a way that you probably won't like either. So cut it out, go back, trim it, just give the basics. Okay, so I want to talk through 3 particular situations that I see come up. These are questions, again, over and over and over again, that clients will come to me and feel like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. And this is why I'm sharing this particular episode. I've been getting asked this a lot in the last couple months, and it could just be because we all make mistakes. It could also be that we're all struggling, with what's going on in our personal lives, or, with COVID and, all the stuff that we've been through these last, well, I guess over a year now that we've been through, like it's been hard. And it's just a common thing that keeps coming up. So that's why I'm sharing and recording this podcast episode, because I'm hoping that if you're sitting there right now going, I don't know how to follow up, and I know I'm supposed to, and it keeps popping up on my calendar, or I see their business card sitting in front of me, or it's on my to-do list, and I just keep putting it off because I don't know what to say and I don't know what to do. And you're spending a lot of energy beating yourself up because you didn't follow up today, you're going to do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and you don't do it. And now you're still beating yourself up. Like, I want to alleviate that for you. That's the point of this particular episode. All right. So situation one, let's say you've committed to sending something to somebody. You promise that you're going to send them some information or maybe a quote, or they want to have maybe a scope of work from you or a proposal, whatever it is. So you've committed to sending something over, but something has gotten in the way. That something is usually called life. We all have one outside of our work, right? Sometimes inside of our work too. We have life. Life gets in the way sometimes. So in these particular instances, this is when a simpler response is better. So I'm going to give you a language suggestion. We'll see if you like it. So I might say, hi, Lucy. Now, your client might not be called Lucy. I don't know if you know this, but my ideal client, I have a name for her. I'm very specific about who she is. So I send all of my emails to Lucy. So when I talk about Lucy, that's who I'm talking about. Like my ideal client, if I could design my perfect client. So I've named her name's Lucy. So I'm going to send these emails to Lucy today. So hi, Lucy. Based on our last conversation, I had hoped to have insert whatever that information is. I'd hope to have that scope of work over to you, or that proposal, or that information, or that pricing, whatever it is. I'd hope to have that over to you before the end of the week. Due to an unexpected life situation, I'm wondering if it'd be okay with me getting it to you early next week instead. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Okay. Short, sweet. What did I do there that is opposite of what most people do? Hopefully you know this. It's like a quiz. I'm waiting for your answer. I'm hoping that you say, Nikki, you asked a question instead of making a statement. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, 2021 is the year of the question. I'm really trying to get people thinking about asking more questions. So instead of telling the person that you're not going to get something over to them, how about let's ask them if it would be okay? Now, if somebody sent you this message, again, put yourself in this situation. How would you respond if somebody had said, I'm going to get this pricing over to you, and then you get a message that says, hey, based on our last conversation, I had hoped to have that over to you this week. And due to an unexpected life situation, I'm wondering if it'd be okay with me getting it to you early next week instead. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Are you going to say how dare you? No. You're probably going to be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Thanks for asking. Thanks for letting me know. So I'm not sitting here thinking about, was she going to send that to me? So ask the question. Super important to learn how to ask more questions. Most people are going to say, hey, no problem. Totally fine. Now, what if they say, no, I really need it this week? Then here is what I would respond back with. Now, we might need to tweak this based on your particular situation. So I'm just giving you kind of a general response here. So I send this message over and somebody comes back and says, no, Nikki, I really need it, by Thursday. I'm going to say, thank you so much for letting me know that you need it this week. That's not something I'm able to deliver. Please know that this is in no way a reflection on how much I value you as a potential client. It's just not within my capabilities this week to get this over to you. And as much as I'd be disappointed to lose out on working with you, I will respect your decision if you choose to look for another option. In case you're still interested in receiving that information next week, please let me know and I will get it over to you. Wishing you continued success. So that might be my follow-up email if somebody's like, no, I got to have it this week. Because the fact of the matter is I asked the question, so it's totally within their, realm to come back and say, no, I need it this week. But it's also okay for me to go back and say, totally respect that. And that is not within my capabilities. So as much as I would be disappointed in losing out on working with you, I will respect your decision if you choose to go elsewhere. And we have to show up from that place. Because notice I'm not begging for this person's business. I'm not trying to make them feel like they don't matter. I want them to feel like they matter. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes we have to be willing to walk away from business if life is in the way and we absolutely cannot deliver. What I find most of the time, what people do is they just don't say anything. They don't even acknowledge. So then the client, the prospective client, is there wondering like, whatever happened to that person, or whatever happened to that quote they promised me, or can I trust this person? So it starts to break down rapport. It starts to break down the relationship if you don't communicate. And this is why I'm sharing again this episode with you today in hopes of giving you some language suggestions so that you can communicate when things are not going well, because frankly, you need to have these in your back pocket, these little phrases, these little things to say to people in these situations, because I mean, I'm just going to say, bless you if you've never needed these. Like, what a blessed life you live. And I'm super, super happy for you. But most of us don't live that life. We have things that come up that get in the way, and we need to know how to like maneuver those. Okay. All right. Here's situation 2. We'll see if this relates to you, if this has ever happened. Maybe too much time has passed. Maybe this isn't like, hey, I'm just asking for a week extension. Maybe months have gone by and you drop the ball. Again, this happens. So this actually happened with a client of mine who, she felt like she had to confess to me as her coach. She was like, I have a confession. I have a bunch of people on a list that I was supposed to follow up with months ago, and I just didn't do it. She also had some life stuff kind of getting in the way, and also she just kept letting time go by. And as more time went by, she started feeling worse and worse, and that was causing her to be less likely to follow up. So this was her situation. So we crafted what her message would be to the people that were on this list that were basically prospective clients, like hot leads, frankly, that she just kind of let go by the wayside. For a lot of reasons. There's no judgment here when I'm saying this. Like, we all drop the ball sometimes and things get in the way. So there's no judgment about it. It's just, it's happened. So let's do something with it. So we crafted a message for her to send to these people. It wasn't a broad message to like all of them. It was an individual message that each person got. We personalized the first couple sentences of the message to each person, but the overarching message was kind of the same throughout. Now, here's what happened. As freaked out as she was, like really freaked out about sending these messages, she thought people were going to respond and be like, go kick rocks. I never want to hear from you again. You dropped the ball. I know I would never hire you. Like, that was the stuff that was rolling around in her head. She was so freaked out that people were going to say these things, or, essentially just like completely disown her, right? She's like kicked out of the tribe. But in actuality, what happened was most people responded and was like, oh my gosh, so great to hear from you. And I'm totally ready to get started. And it turned out that she had her highest sales month that month. It was the most generated, I can't talk now. It was the most revenue that she has generated in her business in 1 month. And she was like, I am on fire right now. I have so many clients that have come back. And I was like, let's talk about where all these clients coming from. She's like, they're all from this follow-up message that we sent out. So don't be afraid to follow up. Okay. So I'm going to give you maybe some possible language here. So this is one of those times where oftentimes people will start the message. They'll want to start with a big, long apology and a story. So be careful. It's not usually needed. My answer almost always when they ask about this, like, do I need to give an apology note? My answer is almost always no. Instead, I suggest with more of a follow-up checking in type message. So the message might say something like, how are you? It's been a little while since we last spoke. The reason for reaching out is to ask if you've thought any more about us working together. And then I might go on to talk about, possible ways that we could work together. I'm going to ask if they're interested in scheduling a chat with me. I'm going to give my 3 times language. Like, this kind of a message gets responses. And this is very similar to the message that I worked with my client who ended up like having her best sales month ever just because she did some follow-ups with people who had shown quite a bit of interest, but she just let too much time gone by, like months had gone by. So never be afraid of following up and see what happens. All right, one more situation, and then we will wrap up the podcast for today. So this is one of those situations that may actually require you to acknowledge that it's been a while and that you didn't follow up, okay? There will be times that you do need to acknowledge it. Now, here is how I would acknowledge it without going into a lot of story. I might say, hi, Lucy, how are you? Please forgive me for the delayed response. For some reason, I completely overlooked getting back in touch with you. I apologize. Would you still be open to setting up a time to chat? And then I'm going to go on with the rest of the message. I'm probably going to offer the 3 times here. But the idea behind this is to acknowledge, yes, this is a delayed response. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Like, I'm apologizing. I'm asking for forgiveness in this particular message. But notice again, I'm not going into a bunch of story. I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, your email, it got lost. It got pushed below the fold. This happened, that happened. Like, you don't need all that detail stuff in there. It just kind of muddies the waters. And frankly, a lot of times it gives people more ammunition to like come back hot with you instead of coming back with like, hey, it's so great to hear from you. Thank you so much for acknowledging it. Most of the time they're going to be like, I didn't even notice that you didn't follow up because most of us are spending, we walk around the world thinking like the whole world revolves around us. So they're not thinking about the fact that you didn't do something that you said you were going to do. They're more worried about all the things they told other people they were going to do and haven't done yet. Okay. So hopefully your big takeaway for today, I'd love to hear actually, what is your takeaway from this session? Would you reach out to me on social media and let me know? You can find me on LinkedIn, and I tend to hang out on Instagram. I do hang out on Facebook all the time, but that's with my Sales Maven Society members. So the only way we get to hang out there is if you're in the group. And hey, if you're not in the group yet, why not? Come join us because we're a lot of fun. There's a lot of good stuff going on in there. But yeah, I'd love to hear your takeaway from this particular episode. Are you sitting on some follow-ups that you haven't done yet? Did this language give you some like ideas? Did it get the wheels turning? Are you going to send some messages after this? Let me know. I'd love to hear also what are the responses to the messages that you send? All right. So as we wrap up the podcast, 2021 is the year of the question. So I'm giving you questions at the end of each of these podcast episodes for you to have in your back pocket, for you to have ready. Now, I've already shared this question in the episode, but I want to call it out here as one of the 2021 question of the year, which is, would you still be open to setting up a time to chat? Like, have this in your back pocket. Be ready to use it. It will come in handy. All right. So as we wrap up today, if you haven't come and joined the Sales Maven Society yet, please do that. And here's a special offer for you. The Sales Maven Society, if you're just hearing about it for the first time, is my monthly membership group. This is where you come with your questions, your concerns, your sales situations, and I will provide guidance, training, confidence, coaching, everything you need to really hone your selling skills and up your game. So this group, we meet live a couple times a month. We have a very active Facebook group where you can tag me with your questions. I respond to every question that I'm tagged on. And there's lots of training in the training center for you. So my monthly membership is $147 a month, but you can join right now for your first month for only $47. Here's how you do it. Go to salesmavensociety.com. And then scroll down where it says coupon code, enter this code. It's the number 4, the number 7, and the word trial, 47 trial, TRIAL. So it's all one word, 47 trial, and then hit apply, and that will take $100 off your first month. So we'd love to have you in there. And like I said, if we haven't connected yet on social media, I'd love to connect with you. So please reach out. There's nothing more thrilling than hearing from people who listen to the podcast and sharing their takeaways. We have weekly discussions about the episodes on my LinkedIn account, the business account under Sales Maven, and there's lots of stuff going on in Instagram too. So I'd love to connect with you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. I'm so honored, and I really appreciate it. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.